So this is Charles Jacks with Ralcorp, Principal Architect, and was a major part of the Zscaler project when we were looking for a new web filtering solution. Ralcorp is the largest private label food manufacturer. We have $4.7 billion in income every year. We have 4 divisions, and then we have a very strong presence across North America. The combination of our presence and our divisions gets us into a lot of areas across the U.S. and Canada. We deal with a lot of different products, from snacks to pasta, all the way to food you buy in supermarkets and at a lot of different restaurants. You'll find us on many different shelves. Before we looked at Zscaler, we had WebSense rolled out. It was sitting on about 18 different servers across the organization. We use our web filtering mostly or only for URL filtering. We were able to set some pretty simple rules, keep people from getting to those sites that nobody wants them getting to. And it worked well within the confines of the buildings. So if somebody was sitting on the Ralcorp network someplace, they couldn't get to a web page we didn't want them to get to. WebSense required a lot of administration. It was sitting in a lot of different places, and we were coming up on looking at needing to really improve upon that environment. The challenges that we really were seeing were locations all were managed by the guy, our site guy who worked at that location. He would configure it, he would set it up, or she would set it up, and they would have their own policies in place. So there was a lack of consolidation around the policies, there was a lack of consolidation around reporting, and we had a lot of questions, kind of how people were pulling information out there, what was being blocked, what was getting through, how things were working really. We didn't have any view into the malware, the botnets, any information about that, and we definitely had no way to protect our computers, our resources out on the roads where the road warriors were traveling. HR and legal were definitely very interested in the ability to kind of consolidate that down and be able to control reporting and manage the process of getting that information. So we set about looking at requirements on what we really needed from as a company. We wanted to be able to protect against people going to websites that we didn't want them to go to. We wanted to protect against viruses, malware. We needed something that was really easy to implement, something that when it went out, there was not a lot of work that the users would have to do. We wanted to reduce the ongoing support for IT, either related to viruses or just multiple people managing multiple different policies at multiple different locations. We wanted to make sure that we could consolidate down and make that as simple as possible. We definitely wanted to standardize. Some of the big words around here are standardize and consolidate. So we were looking to standardize the policies down, make sure we had those in place as kind of a baseline for all the locations across the organization. We wanted to be able to protect remote users and protect the computers when they're outside of the walls of Ralcorp office. And we wanted to be able to make sure we were capturing accurate information about the users and make sure that policies were being applied correctly. One of the things with WebSense was if you were logged into a computer, you logged out, and the next guy logged in, WebSense might think that person was you for the next 20 minutes. It was an older version of WebSense, so we want to be able to lower our cost of ownership. So we started out looking. We looked around at a couple of different options, and using our criteria, we were able to narrow it down to just a few choices. We looked at a couple of cloud solutions, and we had WebSense in-house, so it definitely made the list. We couldn't outright eliminate it. Then we went through and we did some live installations. We tested out each different solution. We monitored traffic. We traveled around a little bit with the software installed, and we just took a look at how it all worked. We wanted to make sure that when we put it on a user's machine, whether it was we needed to install a client, or it was just a pack file, or there was no install and it worked through some app or some appliance or an install on a server, that everything worked when the end user got it. We wanted to make sure it was very simple for them to use. So we went through that process. We tested the deployments, ran through some end user experience, looked at the latency, kind of tested around, and we finally came up, after going through about 4 different options, we came to the choice that Zscaler was the one that was definitely on top of their game and had all of our requirements met. From a deployment standpoint, we've had a couple of choices we were looking at. We had the option of kind of doing a one night, get everybody in, but we decided we wanted to go with a little bit longer process. We wanted to make sure that we fully understood what was out there. So we rolled out over multiple months. We took site by site. We scheduled up several a week, and we would reach out to them and make sure that everything was working very well before we would move on to another site. And each location, we were able to go through and look at the different authentication and traffic forwarding. It allowed us to tackle some very unique solutions by setting the pack file up, working within that confines, working with the Zscaler security, using our own directory integration, integrating into our own directory to be able to get that user authentication. It allowed us not to have to create another set of user accounts. Nobody has to remember any password. We very easily go back right to our own directory and pull that information from there, and that allows us to tie all the reporting back to the actual usernames that everybody knows. The nice thing about Zscaler was that it didn't have any plugins. You don't have to go into an application running on your machine and choose that you're in California or tell it that you're in New York, or when you move between the two, you have to change that. That was a big thing for us. We didn't want to have to push that on anybody within Ralcorp. So we were very pleased that we were able to come to the Zscaler and they had that solution already in place. Some of the benefits we saw after getting Zscaler in place was we noticed we were able to see that we did have some malware. Everybody, I think, has some malware that's out there that they're not quite aware of, especially people that have laptops that go home. People tend to use those things and get into all kinds of trouble. So we were able to discover a few surprises on our domains, or on our workstations, I should say. We were able to get those cleaned up very quickly, and we were able to dig in and see a lot of viruses and issues that our desktop team was fighting. Those seemed to disappear as Zscaler came in. As we moved across the domain, we obviously saw fewer and fewer viruses within the organization. It's gone a long way to remove a whole lot of work from our desktop teams. We used to have desktop guys would spend, maybe one person would spend half a day a week, and then they may end up having 2 machines a week that were having viruses just here in St. Louis. We have our largest contingency of people. We would have a couple of machines with viruses. That's just about gone away since we rolled out Zscaler. I think we have had 1 or 2 machines since it's been fully implemented in St. Louis, and that's been about 5 to 6 months. So it's a big decrease for us. We've rolled out the same policy and protection for users. So whether your user is sitting in the office or at home, HR and legal wanted to make sure that their experience was the same. Some of the big benefits was the reporting. It's very cool to be able to go in and see what just happened a couple seconds ago, whether it was on the other side of the world or right down the hall here. We can get in and look at Zscaler and dig significantly down into what's going on within our company. We can see where the traffic's going, who's got something that shouldn't be on their computer, or who's been trying to get to websites they shouldn't have. For the end users, it's pretty transparent. They don't have to log in over and over again. They do have the first-time login, which just about every solution kind of has out there, well, at least when we were looking. So a one-time login was not a big deal to us. You just go out to their first page, they get a prompt to log in, and they go ahead, toss in their Ralcorp information, and they're good to go. And then HR and legal, they have one guy they can go to that basically runs Zscaler for the entire organization. He ran through most of the implementation for us and got us up, running, and spends maybe 2 hours a week managing the entire solution. That's come down pretty far from when we had 18 different people probably spending that same 2 hours a week working on their individual sites and dealing with WebSense. And WebSense was definitely much more finicky. It would tend to break. The filtering would stop working without notification. Now, I think that a lot ties back to the WebSense software being a little bit older, but Zscaler has had none of those issues, and it's definitely decreased our number of people and hours spent down a long way. We've definitely seen savings. Our projected savings for 3 years was about $500,000. That was just over the cost of renewing our WebSense licensing, buying new hardware, getting SQL servers installed, getting everything upgraded and making sure it was current. Our WebSense, our infrastructure was getting pretty old, so being able to upgrade that and was going to be the next steps we were going to have to take. So we avoided those costs, and the Zscaler costs alone were very comparable, or if not cheaper than the WebSense costs when we were looking. So, as I said, we've kind of decreased down the number of people that are involved in the process from 18 to 1 person. So I think I talked about the cost avoidance around the desktop infections. We've eliminated downtime for users, eliminated the time the desktop team is spending working on computers, and just generally brought a better experience to the end users. We went through a couple of lessons learned. We discovered the web proxy, the web gateway, is a good way to protect us against the malware. It allows us to see what's kind of trying to get out of our network. That was a very cool feature. As soon as we saw that working, we were pretty excited about it. It's definitely good to know what's going on out there. Understanding your environment is a key, I think, to success. Starting early, you can get a good buy-in from different groups in the company. We were able to go around and through the process of going slowly and working with the different groups and departments, and like everybody has different groups, different divisions, different parts of your organization. We were able to talk to all of them and work through the process, let them fully understand what was going on, and they were able to buy into the idea and understood what was coming. So it was very good for them. And then in many cases, we've learned that cloud solutions, they make a lot of sense. Zscaler is definitely a cloud solution that's worked out very well for us. Zscaler was the one that gave us the lowest footprint, the least impact to the end user, and the lowest costs. And that is why Ralcorp was able to go with Zscaler as our web solution.